Welcome to Digital Cloud Labs. This started as a straightforward shot. The brief was to add realistic skin texture, scars or damage without it looking fake. Option 1 was to work with a special effects makeup artist. Option 2 was to add the special effects in post. In this video, I'll show you the exact workflow using DaVinci Resolve Surface Tracker, Photoshop and AI generated textures, and more importantly, where this technique works and where it doesn't. So the first thing that you do is you import the footage. I've got a clip just here. It's a 10-second clip, and I take that into the color page section of DaVinci Resolve. I add the color space transform into the first node, and I make these input settings. So for the color input color space, I change that to the camera that it was shot on, which is the Sony FX3. So that would be in the gamma 3.cine format. Input gamma S-log3. And then the output color space I'm going to use is the DaVinci wide gamut output gamma. I'm going to be using Rec 709A. So as we scrub through, you can see the footage looks pretty good. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to choose one frame that I think is a nice still solid frame of the face where nothing's distorted too much. So when I do then do the surface tracking and scrunch my face up, it shouldn't be distorted too much. Something around here should be fine. First thing I'll do is I'll just add a marker onto the footage so I know which frame I've exported. Then I'm going to come up here to File and I'm going to say Export Current Frame is Still. So here we are in Photoshop. So all we need to do is select the area that we want to be able to work in. Just a rough selection is fine for this. I'm going to just use this marquee and I'm going to add a text prompt under generative fill here. Just make sure that the model that you're going to be using is Gemini 3 with Nano Banana Pro. I'm going to ask it to add burns to skin texture. Well, here we go. That looks absolutely disgusting, doesn't it? Yeah, okay, so we can use this. I don't know why it does this, but it always does it. It kind of changes the shape of the face. So what I ended up doing with this was just drop the opacity down to say 50% and go into transform, so Command T, and holding down Shift, you can just stretch it back out to where you can see it aligning. So you can see on the eye there, on the left eye, I think the top and bottom lines up pretty well already. So I'm just going to confirm that, bring the opacity back up. So you can see here how we're looking. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an alpha mask, because when I take it into Resolve, I don't want to just have this hard oval shaped mask. I'd much rather feather it and only have the selected areas that I want to actually have visible. In case you don't know how alpha masks work, when you're selected over this side, it's the image. And when you're selected over this side, it's the alpha mask. So we can use the black and white default colors and a brush to be able to adjust this. So as I go through, you can see here either hiding or revealing using black and white. As we go, all I'm doing is just covering up anything that I don't want to be visible. So that's the good thing about masking. We don't want the eyes here because we want to have the original eyes from the footage. I think we're going to need to have the original eyebrows as well. We don't want any of this. The original skin texture or hair detail. So I'm going to save this asset up as a PSD, and I can just drop this in. I can go over to the color page and we can look for a surface tracker. So let's put this in over here. And from there, we want to go to bounds. And I can just click to add points of where I'd like to have the texture added. And I can zoom in and I can fine tune these a little bit. Be as accurate as you like with this. I like to add the finer detail just so it makes it a bit better. Okay, that looks like it's about right. I might just pull the mask out to the edge a little bit further here. So the next thing to do is to maybe add some holes. So I've got one for the eye over here. Or maybe we'll also add another one for the mouth as well. If we go to mesh, you can see what it does. It adds these tracker points and areas that the mesh is going to be distorted around the face. Something that I like to do here is I change the point locations to uniform grid. You can see what that does there. It basically adds in way more tracker points and detail. So as the mesh is getting distorted, it's going to just look more natural and realistic. Next, we can go over to track and we can change the quality from faster to better. And then using these backwards and forwards arrows, I'm going to track forwards, then reverse. Okay, that's done. So the first thing that we can do is have a look through and see how it's done. So there, that's not right, is it? So these points here are way too far to the edge. So we need to bring those in. And then we can track again, forwards and backwards. Okay, let's have a look through. How's it done? So these are much better on the side, but you can see on the other side, we've got a bit of an issue around the corner there by the eye and the socket. Definitely out at its most around here. So I'm going to just zoom in and I'm going to just move these in. And again, I'm going to come up here and just go to track forwards, then reverse. Okay, let's have a look now. Yeah, that looks a lot more solid. We can come over here and we can go to hide and we can go to result. And then what we need to do is add our texture in. So I'm going to drag this over in here. And I'm going to take the output green socket into the input green socket. The placement isn't right and the alpha matte isn't linked up properly. So we're going to have a look at the different options here. Dragging the top one, dragging the second one, dragging the third one, dragging the fourth one. So probably the best one so far is the top one. Still leaves a bit of a strange outline. So there's different ways of doing this and I'll show you how that's done. So if I come back to Photoshop over here, create a new layer and I make it black. And then I command click on the thumbnail on the alpha mask. It's going to give me just the white area. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to make that white and I'm going to turn off the visibility of the color channel. So now what we're left with is just this black and white alpha mask. So anything that's white is going to be visible, anything that's black is going to be invisible. So if I save that up as a PNG and I can import that, if I come back to Photoshop over here, if we just save this as a PNG, we're going to call it burn color. We can then import that back into Resolve. So if we take the color PNG that we've just made and the alpha PNG that we've just made, we can join up the color to the green socket over here, and then we can take the alpha into the alpha over here, and you can see that we've got a nicer blend now. Now obviously the mapping isn't right, so we need to adjust the positioning. So we can go into the surface tracker and we can go to the canvas position sliders. We can change things on here to make it fit. So first thing is zoom, so we get the scale right, and then move it on its X and its Y. That's probably not too bad, is it? Something that might help is if we drop the opacity to 0.5, just so we can have a look if there's any features that we can see that are through. So if we go to the scale, yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so this is where the fun part happens. So we can now have a look at how well it's stuck, which I think is pretty good. Now you can see that there's some things here that don't look great, which is the hard edge to the side. So maybe we just need to soften it over here. Here we go. Pretty pleased with that. So we can have a look at some of the fine details. So the first thing is we've got some motion blur on the original footage, which we don't have on this. So if we go to motion blur, put it up to about 0.5, let's see what happens. So I'm just going to export it and we'll see what we've got. And there we have it. That's our result. It's pretty good. I think it works pretty well. I'd say it's not perfect, but it's actually perfectly usable. I think we could maybe work a little bit more on fine-tuning the way that the layer mask maybe is a little bit wide past the eyebrows. Maybe we could bring that in so some of the texture comes in a bit closer. Also, you can see around the edges, it doesn't go all the way because the head kind of curves around it being three-dimensional, and this plane being a two-dimensional image effectively that we're just trying to distort as it goes around. You can see around the corner of the cheeks here it's slightly feathered, but actually when it comes to it, I don't think that's a bad result at all. So there we go. That's the full process I tested for replacing skin textures on a moving face. I'll be exploring more workflows like this across colour, visual effects and AI. If you want practical workflows like this, subscribe and I'll keep everything focused on what actually works in production.